Welcome to this session. In this session, we'll be continuing our discussions on public relations. In one of our previous sessions, we have initiated the discussion on public relations. We have tried to see how public relations, or PR as it is more commonly called, fits in with the other forms of communication for the organization, how it integrates, tries to integrate the efforts of advertising, sales promotion, direct marketing, and any other form of communication, and thereby project one wholesome image about the company, its products, its services, etc., to the different groups of stakeholders. That is what PR has as a function to achieve. Now, in this session, let's discuss in particular what are the different types of PR that an organization undertakes in order to reach out to the different groups of stakeholders. So, what can be according to you, the different types of PR that a company can engage in?
So maybe financial PR.
Yes, financial
Generate
PR.
financial reports of the company.
That's right. We have said before that the financial community is an important group of stakeholders. Okay, how our business gets money and funds to operate, and how it grows over the years. It can even go to the market for public issues. It can borrow funds from the different banks or financial institutions. In order to facilitate all this, in order to make all this happen smoothly, the PR department has to maintain a rapport with the financial community stakeholders who are there. Give them information from time to time about the financial performance of the organization. Supply them with balance sheets of the organization, the corporate reports and brochures where the financial performance of the organization has been highlighted, how it has progressed over the years, thereby trying to build confidence in the minds of the people who are going to give you funds in order to run your business, so that they also feel that this is a safe organization, an efficient organization that can grow a business and properly utilize the funds deployed by it, and earn handsome returns on the deployment of the funds. So there's a lot that needs to be done in the area of financial PR, trying to keep these people in good humor, trying to have a healthy working relationship with this group of people. Yeah.
Can it be published legally through the media? The financial.
Of course, why not? You can always come out with different financial reports if you choose to do so. And for example, the annual general meetings of the organizations which are held in public places, and the speeches of the senior people in the organization who address those AGMs and the different meetings which are public meetings by the organization, they can be published in the media as well. And the general public can also have a look at those reports and take out inputs from it. Whether they would like to buy shares of the organization, whether they would like to put their funds in the business of the organization, will be largely influenced by what they read from those reports, what they feel the press is trying to tell them.
So it may also help the competitors of the same firm, of the same product, or
yeah, of course. I mean, competition is always there, and see, the point is information is something which cannot be suppressed these days. Okay, in this age of information explosion, I think it's better to rather share information rather than suppress information or try to hide information from your competitors. As much as they are learning from your efforts at PR, you are also learning from about their efforts when they are going to the press or the public. Okay.
So we can also say that it helps in benchmarking also.
It does, yeah, of course it does. It's a good point to make. It does help you in benchmarking your performance with your closest rival, or let's say the best in the industry. And yes, benchmarking is a thing that we talk about these days, and through PR you get to have some reports against which you can benchmark your performance. Yes, you can certainly do that.
So one was financial PR.
Yeah.
Then another type can be marketing PR, which we can generally see all around us.
Yes, of course. Marketing PR is the, as I said, the more prevalent form of PR, because that's what we get to see more of. As typical consumers of different products of different companies, we are exposed to a lot of marketing PR. And yes, that's the mainstay of our discussion here, because this is, after all, a lecture on marketing, a discussion on marketing, and marketing PR is the central focus of our discussion. We have talked a lot about the different activities and things carried out by the PR department in trying to market products and services, give a support to the other marketing efforts that we will come back to. And we'll discuss more about that. But then, do you think there are other forms of PR?
Apart from this, there is also one way which is also called the community PR.
Absolutely.
Which actually supports how the industry is going to benefit the sons of soil of the people.
Yes, when a company tries to roll out something new, when the company tries to embark on a new venture, it has to carry the community along with it. It has to somehow benefit the community where it is going to do that business. Okay.
It has to see the social value.
It has to look into the
Which
social aspects of, whether people will be displaced from there, whether people will be able to benefit from the industrial activity being carried out there. What is going to happen to those people whose lands would be taken away? Can they get jobs in the organization? Can the community as a whole prosper as a result of the industrialization of that area? So these are areas, and mind you, all these people are stakeholders. Okay, so their interests have to be looked into. And as I said, the objective of PR is to create an atmosphere of understanding between the organization and the different groups of stakeholders. So it is the primary job of PR to send out the right signals to the community who is going to be affected one way or another by the industrial activities to be carried out by that organization in a given location.
And today, sir, each and every heavily industries, heavily banked upon industries or much published upon industries who are making way in the today's Forbes magazine or whatever may be in the top 10, you may say. So they are taking about the corporate social responsibility as one of the very important managerial tasks.
That's right. Corporate social responsibility has very strong linkages with PR. It is one thing to say that we are a socially responsible corporate, and it's another thing to actually live up to that reputation. So what do you really do? How do you address the concerns of different stakeholders whose interests might at times be in conflict with one another? And then how do you reconcile those and make everyone happy, or so to say make everyone kind of satisfied with what you are doing? Fine. But then we come back to marketing PR, because marketing PR is what is more important for us to discuss here. So what do you think? What do you think marketing PR needs to achieve? How does it operate? What does it do? Fine. But then the most important thing, which I think has been surfacing time and again in our discussion, is that when you launch a new product, you need the support of PR. We talked about the examples of launching of movies, mega budget movies, which resort to a lot of I would say guerrilla marketing or viral marketing, trying to gather word of mouth publicity even before the product is there in the market. So launching new products, because launching a new product is not something that happens every day in an organization. So it automatically attracts news value, and how you capitalize on this news value of a launch is what PR needs to do. And a good PR would take the product miles ahead even before the product is actually out in the market. Okay, that's important.
So in relation to this, it also builds up the image of the company.
Obviously it does help to project a right image of the organization. But then going back to the original contention of launching new products, one thing one has to remember is scheduling and timing of the PR activities. That's very important. Okay, when do you do the PR activities? How long do you carry on with the PR activities before they become stale? Okay,
before advertisement
that's right.
takes up.
So these are important issues that one needs to address in
Sir, another
marketing
can
PR.
be assisting to reposition a mature product.
Yes, right. Products which have gone into maturity. We talk about the product life cycle. In introduction, there is one set of problems. In introduction, PR helps to give some sort of publicity and generate
Launch
awareness about the product. In growth, it does not need much of a PR because the product is there in the market. Different stakeholders are interested in the product already, and the product is growing in leaps and bounds. Okay. But then when it enters maturity, again, there is some kind of a problem because the sales are not as high or they don't rise as fast as the company would like them to. But then to sustain that image of the organization in the minds of the, let's say, the customers and other stakeholders, PR activities can once again be required. And over time, every product picks up certain negative perceptions all the same. Now, it is for PR, therefore, to rectify that, and bring back the positive image of the product. And I would say even kind of lend a new lease of life to the product in maturity if it can, by engaging in meaningful PR, engaging in meaningful corporate social responsibility. After all, one needs to remember that PR is integrated with things like cause marketing. Okay, like the organization can stand for a very noble cause. Okay, when the products are mature, everybody knows about the product. Distribution channels are flush with the product. What more can the company do? The company can take up some cause for which it can, devote funds and channelize funds, and thereby, polish the image of the organization. Let's say many organizations devote to a worthy cause. Let's say education of the girl child in the rural areas could be one such cause that the company takes up. Okay, and it does a lot of publicity around that cause what is in fact being referred to as cause marketing these days. You pick up a cause deliberately, pick up a noble cause for which the company would channelize some funds, but then gain very important mileage, very important points which will go to uphold the image of the organization, and that is what is going to sustain the company in the difficult periods of maturity and even decline. Okay, so all that is really handled by PR in the maturity phase of the product's life cycle. Yeah.
It may influence a specific target group, like
Yeah.
a target group or class of people who are not buying that product,
Yeah.
do not favor that product. They can be approached in a separate manner.
That's right. It works at different levels. We did say that PR tries to reach out to the more difficult to reach segments of the market. That's one. And the other thing is PR gives rise to buzz or word of mouth. Word of mouth is carried forward by opinion leaders. Okay, so objective of PR is to really reach out to those opinion leaders. Opinion leaders in turn are going to propagate the message of the product or the organization to, let's say, the early adopters. Okay, and the early adopters in turn will carry the message forward to the early majority, and that is how a product also percolates into the or diffuses into the marketplace. Okay, when a new product comes in, it's the opinion leader or the innovator who would try out the product. And the job of PR is to get hold of those opinion leaders who would engage in buzz marketing, who will voluntarily carry the word of mouth about the organization, about its products, and spread it across to the different other groups who are not as receptive to new ideas as they are. Okay, so they carry forward the good word of mouth and try to influence other groups who are not so susceptible to information that is given out by PR. And so it sets a chain reaction, in the marketplace where innovators talk to early adopters talk to early majority bring in the late majority, and thereby, before some time elapses, a large number of people become stakeholders of the organization. And that's how you can increase the stakeholders' numbers also, by bringing in different people into the fold of the organization. Yeah.
So it also defends those products which have gone through or which have encountered problems in the market.
Yeah. This is, I think, a crisis management of some sort. Whenever a company faces crisis and somebody needs to manage that crisis situation, it's normally PR that is called in, okay, by the top management, because they know that these are specialist people who can handle mass communication, and what kind of message they'll put out, what content will be there, what will be the right or the appropriate medium to carry that message, in what way the message will have to be put forward, how long the message will have to be carried on. What testimonials can be shown, what proof of what the company stands for can be given out to the general public, so that we can build more credibility. Once a product runs into a problem situation, as she was referring to, defending existing products or kind of giving a support to products that have run into some kind of a problem is what PR looks into, and it does so with the help of other marketing communication channels. Using different media, it does that. Yeah. So marketing PR has got a...
Overall, we can say that it helps to build a corporate image favorably.
Yes. Ultimately, at the end of the day, how would one assess PR? One would assess PR by realizing what was the image of the organization when PR activity started. What is the image perception of the organization today after a certain span of time when PR activities have been pressed into action? And has there been a change in the attitude of the stakeholders towards the organization? Has the attitude taken a more favorable turn? Are more and more stakeholders now willing to do business directly with the organization? Are more and more companies willing to lend money to the organization? Are more and more people willing to buy the company's products and services? Okay. Are more and more suppliers yearning to do business with the organization? Have we really kept the legislators and the politicians of the land happy, and do they look upon our business favorably? Have more and more people started seeking employment with the organization? Have more and more employees stuck to the organization? Now, these are, I think, some results by which PR can be evaluated, and I think that's the major success of PR if it has been able to do all this. So what we do, we take a short break at this point of time. We come back after the break, and we discuss about implementing PR activities and how PR activities can actually be, sort of reviewed and changes implemented if required. That's what we look into after the break. Okay. Welcome back. We have been discussing about public relations. Before the break, we had talked about the different types of PR activities. We talked about financial PR. We did mention about marketing PR. You also talked about community PR. So the different forms of PR activities undertaken by the organization we have looked into. In this session, let's concentrate on what are the different tools used by the PR department in marketing PR. So can you think of some of the tools?
So it can be in the form of press kit also.
Yeah. In fact, press kits are quite common when companies launch new products. Okay. They create a kind of a kit which contains information, samples, and things like that at times. And these are given out to not only people in the media but also to some select groups of people chosen among the different stakeholders, so that all of these people get to know what is the event or what is the happening thing in the organization, what is the new product being launched, what new idea is the company trying to float in the marketplace. So it can come in the form of a kit. Press kits or media kits are also quite popular these days. Yeah.
So in a press conference, the company spokesperson can speak to the media and address them regarding the various opportunities which the company is going to bring out for them.
So a press conference can be another tool that the company can use in order to disseminate information about a launch, about maybe a gala opening of new facility or
Its
launching of a
expansion,
new product.
diversification of
Yeah,
the-
it's expansion or diversification into new kind of business. So when the senior people in the organization hold press conferences, that is something new, and the press is obviously interested in something new, and this becomes a news item for them. And the business community at least is very much interested in organizations, new developments, new products, new ventures, new diversifications, and this becomes an important thing, and that's sought by the media for their programs. Yeah, press conferences. Conferences, right? Any other?
So media tools are also very common.
Media tours, yeah. Many a times, somebody reputed from the organization or even a group of senior people in the organization, they tour different cities, before the launching of a new product or before they go into, let's say, the market for raising public issues or something of that sort. Some new development has happened. Then a group of people are entrusted with the job of touring, different parts of the country, going to different cities and addressing press conferences in different cities at different locations. And many a times the development is regional in nature, and that is the time when you have to address the regional media. And many a times the development can be national in nature, so you have to address the national media in that case. So depending on that, you'll cover media tours also in your program. Quite right?
So the media events, a lot of media events we can see that
Right.
that take place.
That's right. You can sponsor a lot of events also, which is quite common among big companies. They sponsor events which
Sir, like-
draw a lot of public attention. For example, a cricket match
Cricket
can be
match.
sponsored by an organization.
Like TV is recently showing the cricket matches.
That's right. So sponsorship of events is one I think is quite commonly used and quite widely used by corporates, because there are many activities like sports and all which draw a lot of public attention and diverse publics of that, and therefore it's one good way of communicating something about the image of the organization through sponsorship of good sporting events. If you think there's a nation that's sports crazy like India, sponsoring of sporting events could be a major PR activity engaged in by many of the corporates. Absolutely.
So
Any
it
other?
can be in form of speeches also.
Absolutely. You very often you find very senior, respected, chief executives of organizations addressing, or giving speeches in a media, and that's how the company also stands to advantage, because it has got a platform through which it can promote, its point of view. It can, as we all say, nurture the image of the organization, and talk about interesting things, talk about things which are of interest to the public in general. And it also gives the corporate a chance to show that it is trying to associate itself with good causes, and it's trying to help the upliftment of society, it's trying to make a difference in the lives of people. And I think speeches do help a lot in that way. If you have somebody who is very articulate, who is media savvy, then many companies would try to use such CEOs in order to carry forward the job of PR.
So
Yeah.
pitch letters can be another format in which to reach out.
That's
to the
right.
media, giving
Pitch
the
letters are again more common when a company is contemplating a new launch. That's when, and the media is always hungry for news. So if even a new product launch, a new concept that's coming to the market is important, and without waiting for the media, many a times the PR professional will send a letter to the medium.
Letters to
He may have
editor.
contacts with a particular media
Editor,
house,
of
and
course.
he may be in good relationship with them, and he can send a pitch letter which details a particular launch, let's say, or a new feature or a new product or a new concept. And if that is found to be interesting by the media, they can make a story out of that and promote it to the different stakeholders.
So fact sheets of which provides information of the brand or of the company could be another tool.
Absolutely. Fact sheets do come up from time to time when there is a lack of credibility on the part of the stakeholders. We did discuss when companies run into problems. Many a times a fact sheet, can lay bare the facts in front of the stakeholders and convince them about the neutrality of or the authenticity of what the company is trying to claim. Many a times companies do feel that they are not being believed by the various stakeholders. So a fact sheet many a times looks like a third party endorsement of something, some test result or something which can appear as a fact sheet and which is more credible from the point of view of the stakeholders rather than the organization trying to promote that directly, use PR in order to circulate fact sheets through the medium. Okay, so that's another tool. So we have discussed among us quite a number of tools which are in common use while trying to market PR activities. And I think that's a good discussion on the different tools. Let's now look at maybe one of the concluding aspects of PR. That's how do you carry forward, or what are the steps through which PR proceeds, and how do you ultimately make it happen? So what do you think are the steps that a PR professional has to go through?
So we need to establish the objectives.
Right. Everything, like any other task in management, it has to start with the objective. What is the objective that we address? What are we trying to do out of this PR exercise? That's important, and it has to gel with the overall marketing objective, overall marketing mix objectives of the organization. That's the most important thing. Okay. We have to do something which is going to synchronize with the efforts of the other marketing mix elements, and not something that is not in sync with the others. Okay, so that's a blunder. If through advertising you're trying to do something, through PR you're trying to do something different, that's a sort of situation should never arise. So you have to work in tandem with the other departments in the communication mix. Okay.
So
Fine.
we also need to choose the correct message or the vehicle through which such PR.
Absolutely. No,
can
PR
be
activities
implemented.
depend to a large extent on different media, and therefore selection of the right medium to reach out to the different or the right stakeholders. We talked about scheduling and timing of PR activities. They become very important. When to break a PR news, or when what channels should carry that news item. Selection of those and rejection of other possible channels of communication. That's an important activity that has to be addressed by the PR executives. Yeah. What else?
So it may be in form of implementing the plan.
Yeah.
In form of such certain number of exposures or
Right.
the awareness being created
Right.
through the PR.
Fine. We did look at the different tools which are available to you in order to actually translate your plan into action. We have seen that. Okay. This is implementing the PR plans. Okay. Now, ultimately, what he's referring to is how do you review the results? Okay, the results have to come in. PR cannot be looked upon as an activity which does not have any accountability. It has to be accountable to the bottom line of the organization. So, but then, is it possible to really measure what is the impact of PR that way? Can you really isolate the effect of PR from the effects of, let's say, advertising, sales promotion, personal selling, etc.? Very difficult, because they all work together, and each of them, although they work together, have got different functions to accomplish. Okay, so I think at the end of the day, what PR professionals look for is what are the number of exposures that we have been able to give to our stakeholders. Okay, and let's say
being created.
that's right. PR professionals normally would come up with statements like, we have been able to give so many exposures to such a number of target audience through so many hours of usage of media, or maybe by occupying so much space on some other form of medium, and which would have cost us if we had not used PR or rather used advertising. This is what it would have cost us. Okay, so you can always draw a comparative between how much advertising would have cost you, in trying to reach out to those groups of people with those many exposures, creating the same kind of impact and bringing about the same change in attitude, if you were to relate that, and how PR has been able to do at a much lesser cost. So normally PR activities try to highlight this, the number of exposures by using what kind of media, how many hours and what amount of space devoted to the organization's products and services, and thereby how many people we have been able to reach out to and at what cost, and what would have been a comparable cost had we resorted to advertising in order to reach out. And thereby, you justify a budget that's given to you. But then all said and done, one must admit that even today, most of the marketing budget is still hogged by advertising. Most of the communication budget is still given to advertising, and a much lesser fraction of it comes to PR.
So finally, the contribution to the sales and profit needs to be measured.
Exactly. The whole idea of trying to review the effectiveness is what you are trying to say. How much does PR really contribute to the bottom line of the business? It is important. Every function of management needs to really converge to that point, PR being no exception. So if you are indulging in PR, although everybody would say that it is a cost-effective function, but then you still will have to put it down in rupees and say that this is the money spent on PR, and this is the effect that we are seeing in the attitudes of the different stakeholders, and that's all the time required.
So at the end of the day or the end of the year, everybody is interested to see that how much revenue is actually generated out of the whole program.
Yes, absolutely so. Absolutely so. So, I mean, the accountability of PR lies in this. Although it's admitted that it's difficult to isolate the effect and say that this is the contribution of PR to the bottom line, but then suffice it to say that if the PR activities have been able to bring about a perceptible change in attitude and perception of the organization, its activities, its image, its products and services, and if it has been able to maintain a friendly relationship with the different groups of stakeholders, I think PR has done its job, really speaking. I think that's where we wind up the discussion on PR, and thank you very much for participating in this.